Australia are through to the 2024 Pacific Championship final after knocking off New Zealand yesterday and beating Tonga last weekend. And on the whole, I have to say, considering how much I talked up this tournament in my preview, I have been quite disappointed. Now, Australia, I do have to congratulate them. I thought that this could get very scary for the Kangaroos. I thought Tonga and New Zealand had both a massive chance to completely upstage Australia in what is the sport that we should dominate on the international level. And credit where it's due, these young gun Aussies, Malmaninga is obviously building towards the next World Cup. They have gone 2-0 and will enjoy a week off before the final. But why I'm so disappointed in both Tonga and New Zealand is because I've also been quite disappointed in Australia. I think the Kangaroos have left a lot on the table in their opening two games. I think both Tonga and New Zealand have outplayed them in the forwards during stages of both of their opening games. I think while I did expect Tom Dearden, Dylan Edwards and Mitchell Moses to struggle as a combination, they have been really lackluster, especially both Moses and Dearden. They have both scored tries and both had some nice moments, but on the whole, I think they've been really disappointing. But like I said in my preview, the big advantage that Australia do have is in their outside backs, and Tommy Turbo and the Hammer have been carving teams up, and both Zach Lomax and Xavier Coates are proving why they're without a doubt the best wingers in this entire tournament. But because I'm so disappointed in Australia, it means I'm even more disappointed in the performance that both New Zealand and Tonga showed. The standard of rugby league in this tournament so far hasn't been great, and I guess that's kind of expected. We're getting a lot of these players who haven't played since about a month ago, especially all those Warriors boys who didn't even play in the final round of the regular season. I think a week off is just what Australia need, especially for those halves to combine to work well together. They need as many reps as they can as possible. In saying that though, Munster and Cleary are just going to come back in. I think there's a lot that we can say about the international game, but I do want to give it just the last two games. Now that teams are really playing for what is on the line, I think it's time to see what we can actually do when balls are on the chopping block. So with Australia getting to sit back and wait, let's talk about Tonga and New Zealand. Who wins this weekend? Who will meet the Aussies in the final for a chance to rectify their opening loss? And who is more than likely going to have to play PNG in a promotion/relegation match between the two Pacific Championship tournaments? And I don't think there's much that separates Tonga and New Zealand in the form that they've both showed so far and the teams on paper. It is unfortunate that New Zealand are missing so much. Coming off last year's incredible win, I thought that this New Zealand team would have the beautiful, perfect chance to go back-to-back. But when you take out one of the best front rowers in the game in Moses Leota and you take out the Dally M winning halfback, you're going to suffer. But in saying that, New Zealand were probably worse than I even thought yesterday. And Tonga are a weird one because I thought Tonga would just play their big, strong power game, and they did that. There was a lot to like about the Tonga performance. I don't think 18-0 was a scoreline that reflected that game at all, especially considering Tonga probably lost their best player during that game to a sin bin. But what has really been the separating factor, and despite me being pretty critical of Dearden and Mitchy Mose in the opening few minutes of this video, is I do think that SJ and Isaiah Katoa both really had their struggles. And their partners in crime, Lola Hea and Chancellor Clockstart respectively, both didn't help them at all. I thought that the big strengths for Tonga and New Zealand, especially on paper, was the forward pack, and I thought for a majority of both games the forward pack did their job. But Sean Johnson and especially Isaiah Katoa just couldn't live up to their end of the bargain. And I know it's hard to create points when you're going up against the backline that Australia do have. But Isaiah Katoa, poor bugger, I still think he's the future of the Dolphins. He's going to be a great player. He's definitely the direction that Tonga need to go in with a halfback. But he had the worst rugby league game of potentially a halfback's ever had. And that sentence that may have made no sense is exactly how he played the other weekend. So I think the forward packs for Tonga and New Zealand, they're going to have to come up with different game plans, but that is the big battle. That is going to be box office, because I do think both forward packs are still absolutely terrific. Joey Tarpanay, James Fisher-Harris going up against the likes of Ola Kawatu, who was pretty much just running through all of the Aussie Kangaroos. Adam Fanua-Blake looked great. Jason Taumalolo was absolutely spectacular, so it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that whole Cowboys situation. I think both teams and both coaches, rather, could make some better selections position choices. I think Charles Klokstad goes to fullback. I know Kinney was actually pretty good, but Chance was the fullback last year, and they are missing Joey Manu a lot, but he's been a great fullback for New Zealand. I would chuck him back there. Cody Nikorima literally started the season as the 5'8" on a team that was in the top 4, and I know they slid off, and his form especially wasn't anywhere near that level towards the end of the season, but he's still capable of that, and I think him and Sean Johnson are a much better halves combination. Now, unfortunately for New Zealand, their outside backs aren't screaming X Factor, and I did just say Kinney should be dropped, so I can't really come out here and say that he is the one who should bring the most X Factor. Warbrick is a great winger who can come up with try-scoring plays, but Matty Tomoko, God bless him, is nowhere near the form that he showed towards the end of 2022. Unfortunately, I do think his growth has stalled just a little bit, and also Peter Hiku, he's nowhere near the player he was, which isn't his fault. Jermaine Osaka is a great winger, but we also saw what he was like when he was a winger in a bad system. And then I think on the other hand, Tonga's backline with a few changes could be absolutely elite. Daniel Tupou is one of the best wingers of all time. Sione Katoa had a really poor game. Moses Suli was great, and I know Paul Alamotti just played an integral part of a premiership winning side, but I don't know why he's in there over Cool. Alamotti did his best work on the wing anyway, so why not just put Alamotti on the other wing since Katoa seems to be playing through an injury, and then you can have Kula in the side, because Kula is probably the best outside back when you're looking at both Tonga and New Zealand 1-5. The forward packs, they'll do each other. I mean, look, maybe one of them is just going to come out and completely dominate the other one, but I can't see that happening. Not when you got a pack of Fanua, Blake, Taumalolo, Olakau'atu, and Katoa going up against a pack of Tapane, Fisher-Harris, Scott Sorensen, and Isaiah Papali'i. If anything, just due to their experience, I could see maybe Taps and Fisher-Harris just getting on a roll, but it's just going to come down to SJ. It's going to come down to Isaiah Katoa. SJ has got that experience. He's going to relish his final potential game as a New Zealand player, as an NRL player, as a rugby league player. Now, maybe the week off will help Isaiah Katoa and Lolohea. I mean, Lolohea was the halfback when Tonga literally beat Australia 5 years ago, so maybe he can stand up knowing he's playing with a kid, essentially, because he was, while Katoa was pretty awful, at least he was trying. Lolohea just went super quiet. Maybe that's a coaching decision, but if I've got an older half there, no matter what skill level he's at, he's got to take some of the pressure off Katoa. So I think it is a shame. If New Zealand were at their best, I do think they'd get the job done here. This will come down to experience versus X Factor. How much do Tonga really want it? How much are they going to be able to hang with the experience of New Zealand? I would love for Tonga to win, as much as it'd be good to New Zealand and Australia in another final, as probably they are the two best rugby league nations. I think all the injuries to New Zealand have opened the door for Tonga to get an upset, and I do think that out of the two teams, while the Australia-New Zealand game was closer, I do think Tonga have more of a chance to beat Australia. For that sole reason, I'm going to back Tonga to win this game. It would suck, as it would end up being SJ's final game, but hey, we love SJ. We had our moment. I'd love to see another one, but I can't let some SJ buys cloud my judgment. So hopefully these two teams can bring it, because the Pacific Championship has been a bit lackluster so far. It's been a very long season, and even I just want to talk about transfers at this point. So I'm going to go Tonga. I'm going to go Tonga 1-12, and for my man of the match, I'm going to go Haumole Olakau'atu, because I think he's without a doubt the biggest X factor on that field. But ladies and gentlemen, smash that like button. Let me know who you think's going to win out of these two almighty nations, and I'll see yous in the next one.